In the previous lesson, we looked at the pronunciation of some difficult consonant combinations. In this lesson, we are going to look at another difficult consonant combination, and it is the most common consonant combination sound we use in English. I'm referring to the three different sounds we use to pronounce words ending in ed. These are the participles of regular verbs and are used in the past simple, past perfect, present perfect forms, and many adjectives. They are everywhere in English, so you cannot avoid them. Making this sound correctly is sometimes the difference between speaking in the present simple and speaking in a past form. And of course, this is something you need to get right. You will see in a later section that the present simple in English is less flexible than the equivalent form el presente in Spanish, and that Spanish students of English often use the present simple form incorrectly. One of the reasons for this is because they don't understand the grammar, but another one is because they have difficulty pronouncing many verbs correctly in the past form. So you need to get this sound right. It is very important. This sound can be challenging because in many instances, we have to combine 2 or 3 different consonant sounds together, and the consonant sound can change between a t and d sound, depending on the verb ending. As I already mentioned, verbs ending in ed have 3 distinct sounds in the past simple, the present perfect, and the past perfect, and also in many adjectives. The sounds are unnatural for Spanish speakers as they put consonant sounds together, and Spanish speakers don't like consonant sounds together. It's difficult for you to pronounce because you don't make these sounds in Spanish. So let me show you the 3 verb ending sounds that you need to be able to pronounce. These are ed, d, and t sounds. Their pronunciations again are ed, d, and t. Some example verbs that we have in the ed category are, and in the d category we can put, and in the t category we can put these ones. Now, as an exercise, I want you to pause this video and count the number of syllables in each verb that you see. So do that now. Is this what you got? Take a minute and check that you have the right number of syllables. Now what I want you to do is put these forms in the past simple and count the syllables again. In other words, add ed to the endings or just de, where the verb already ends in an e. Do that on a sheet of paper. It's important that you follow these exercises so that you understand the rules around the pronunciations. Pause the video and do that now. So hopefully you have that done, and now we can take a look at the first category, which is the ed sounds. You will have noticed here that when we add ed, we're also adding an extra syllable to the verb. Very easy. So let me pronounce those verbs for you. Wanted, demanded, needed, hated, invited, decided, started, So in each of those participle forms, you can hear a very clear ed sound at the end of the word. Now let's take a look at the other two categories, and let's see what happens when we put them into the participle form. Look at the number of syllables in each verb in the de and te categories. Did you add an extra syllable? If you did, then this is not correct. The verbs in these categories do not get an extra syllable when we add the ed. It's really important that you understand this. I will give you some rules later which will help you to know which verbs get the extra syllable and which ones don't. But for the moment, it's important that you realize that the majority of regular verbs in the participle form are not pronounced with an extra syllable. Making the sound without adding an extra syllable can be a challenge for Spanish speakers, and this will need some practice. I will give you some exercises for that later. But first, let's have a look at the category with the extra syllable. Take a look at the verbs. Do you notice a pattern? If you haven't found it, take a look at the endings of the verb infinitive. Do you see a pattern yet? Well, luckily, there is a very simple way to know if a regular verb gets an extra syllable in the participle form. And that is that if the last consonant is a T or D, then an extra syllable is added. And you will be delighted to hear that there are no exceptions to this rule. One final point to note with this category is that the last consonant now begins with a T or D. This won't be a problem for Spanish speakers because it's a very natural sound for you to make. In fact, it's the sound that Spanish speakers try to make with other verbs in the other categories, which is incorrect. Therefore, the correct pronunciations are now wanted, demanded, needed, hated, invited, decided, started. Now, before we start practicing some of the de sounds in English, I want to make a comment about the differences between the Spanish and the English D sound. Some Spanish speakers in some regions make the D sound by pushing their tongue against their front teeth. But in English, we never do that. To make a D sound in English, the tongue touches the roof of the mouth, just behind the teeth, but it doesn't touch the teeth. And there is no air expelled in the D sound in English. The tongue should press against the roof of your mouth in order to stop the air from escaping and to make the sound correctly. So you should practice doing this now. Make a note of where you place your tongue in relation to your teeth when pronouncing a D word in Spanish. And if it touches your teeth, then move it back as you see in the diagram and make sure it only touches the roof of your mouth. So you should be making a D sound. You can practice with the word Madrid, for example. It is a good example since it has two D sounds and one of them is at the end. In English, the pronunciation is Madrid, and you can hear that both D sounds are pronounced strongly, and particularly the last one. If saying Madrid in Spanish, the last D sound is much softer. So let's take a look at the other two categories. Remember, here we have the D and T endings, D and T, and there is no extra syllable. Let me pronounce these words for you. Remembered, played, allowed, called, turned, moved, changed, finished, watched, walked, stressed, liked, looked, helped. Now, if you're having problems with practicing these sounds or getting good results in your speech-to-text recognition, then maybe it's time to go back to basics a little and try some ordinary words with the D sound. Here are some common words which you can use to practice in your speech-to-text recognition, and hopefully you'll get the right result. The first word is dead, feed, wood, bud, dud. Now you should be able to hear that strong D sound at the end of those words. It's important that you get that strong D sound.